right, welcome back to the SU Gang podcast. And today we're going to be doing a review of every NFL team's regular season and with a tier list relative to expectations they all had going for them before the season. So let's get started. Bobby also was not able to join us because it's really late for him. We've been recording a couple of these at like 8 p.m. Pacific time, and he lives in New Jersey, so it is what it is, but we'll dive into it. All right, so first up, we got the Arizona Cardinals.
Um,
Oh, wait, by the way, sorry, let me just say that how this works. So the top one is couldn't be more wrong in terms of a good way, like they really overachieved. The second tier, which is the A tier, is like better than expected. D is like as expected. So again, if we put good teams here, it's because we expected them to do what they did before the season. And then the second to lowest tier is worse than expected. And then that says massive disappointments, which is kind of hard to see. But yeah, Arizona Cardinals.
about as a honestly, dude. Record wise, you probably would say, "Oh, as expected." But honestly, the way they played their games, it's better than I expected because they played very competitive. If you get what I'm saying, like this reminds me of kind of like the 2022 Bears in a way because like yeah, in theory, they proved a lot of people right record wise. But the way they played their games and most of their losses were close losses, right? They kind of proved people wrong with how the way they played. And that same applies for the Cardinals. I just think that the Cardinals, yeah, record wise, people are gonna be so happy, but uh they also don't realize that the Cardinals played very competitive and any betters out there that were not betting the Cardinals to cover were wrong most of this season. Yeah, you were right on them losing, but you were pretty wrong on them covering. And I'm just saying right now, man. I think they can make some noise next year, and I think, in my opinion, they did better as expected. Just individually, each game just felt like they always put up a fight.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. They got Trey McBride, very underrated tight end. No one talks about him. James Conner had a career year receiving and I think rushing. No one talks about it. Kyler Murray had some injuries, but despite that, Josh Dobbs started his insanity run with the Cardinals and they put up some very good fights, even if there are losses. Like they beat the Eagles. They should have beaten the Seahawks in the last week of the season. Prater just missed a game-winning field goal. They're like one of the best 4-13 teams we've seen in a while, especially in the first half of the season. They were fighting teams hard, man. And also, Michael Wilson's a very underrated rookie wide receiver. No one talks about, or his name might be Michael Wilson. I forgot, but he also did really good. So with Kyler and potentially in position to get Marvin Harrison, I this team could be dangerous, especially with a fully healthy Kyler Murray year here. And I mean, they still have a lot of positions in need, but they're overachieved this year just on the way they fought each game. Though they've had a little bit of a drop off, but that doesn't really matter. So I would put them in better than expected just because their
Yep.
record was kind of what they we expected. But we also thought they'd be the worst team in the league and that Jonathan Gannon, the Eagles DC from that Eagles Super Bowl team who went there, everyone thought he would do really bad from his motivational speeches that were leaked in preseason, and I think he might be the guy. We'll see how he does with a better roster and hopefully a Marvin Harrison Jr. for them on this team.
Yep.
So
I
next up
agree.
we have the Falcons. I think that the Falcons were a little worse than expected because, for me at least, I was a little bit higher on Desmond Ritter, and I thought they would actually, with Bijan Robinson, use more of their first round top 10 pick talents from the last 3 years. And they still didn't. And they just had some games that were overall stinkers, like really quickly after the first like 4 weeks of the season. I thought, again, the NFC South was going to be bad, but I thought they would actually be a contender with the Saints for this division. I had them as a dark horse and they disappointed. So I put them in like worse than expected. But again, because of the NFC South, I wouldn't say massive disappointments, even though I'd had some higher expectations than average.
I also I agree 100%. I feel like they didn't. I mean, they didn't make me like they didn't disappoint me massively. But again, like they were around the record I expected. But considering the fact that you were in a weak division, like, and with the roster you have, and honestly, I thought Arthur Smith was pretty decent going into the year. Like I thought he was a good head coach because here's the thing. In 2021, the Falcons really had no expectations. And at one point in the season that year, they were fighting for a playoff spot with not a very good roster. And I was like, oh man, a lot of that should be give a lot of credit should be given to Arthur Smith. At the time, I was saying that because I was like, their roster's not very good yet. They were still fighting for a playoff spot despite having low expectations going into that 2021 season. But now it's 2023. Now you have you've boosted up your roster much more than you have in previous years, and you have all this first round talent in a weak division, mind you. At the time, the Bucks were dominating, and they were one of the better teams in the entire NFC. And now going into the season, you looked at the Bucks. Now that Brady left, you're like, oh man, this could really be our division. Just don't play stupid, and you could win this bad division. But they played it stupid, and that's not really like any shot at the players. I think it's just a shot at Arthur Smith. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he like I don't know what.
He just hates fantasy owners. Like he just hates them so much.
Well, yeah, that, but like he went from actually like me like really liking him because I thought that he was part of the reason why the Falcons were winning games the previous years, to me saying like, what the hell happened to you? Like, why? What motivates you other than fantasy related stuff to
Exactly.
do?
Dude, there were some plays. I remember they had three tight ends in, right? You have Kyle Pitts, pick 8 3 years ago, 2 years ago. And he was the highest tight end taken in NFL history. He wasn't a reach. He was just a really good talent. He had the like swimmer build of a wide receiver, but could be a tight end. He was
Yeah,
blocking well. Jonnu Smith and their third stringer were getting a touchdown on the play. Like that is just crazy. And Jonnu Smith was getting these like breakaway touchdowns. Like it's insane. It's Jonnu freaking Smith, bro. But yeah, I didn't put it in the coaching tier list, but he is the OC Arthur Smith. He's the OC for the Steelers. I think it was good to leave him out because I think everyone would have put him in F tier. Another conservative play caller, and he is going to give Allen Robinson and their fourth string guys career years on the Steelers. And fans are gonna pull their hair out of their head. And yeah,
well,
but I thought from his running game he would at least give Bijan involved. But considering what Bijan did, he still did a good job.
dude. Okay, I don't want to like be inappropriate here, but like, I want to know what he took. Like, I want to know what he started taking
That's
because he was a good offensive coordinator at Tennessee.
see,
He
yeah,
was,
exactly. And maybe he'll
and,
be
and
it
in
again.
his
That's
first
Pittsburgh. We'll see.
in his first 2 years with Atlanta, in my opinion, he was a good coach with Atlanta his first 2 years. Like he was the reason why the Falcons were even at 7 wins those 2 years because it's like with the roster that they had, you're like, I don't know if this team wins more than 5 games, and they were able to fight for a playoff spot for those 2 years, right? And now I'm just looking at it, and I'm like, dude, what? Like, did you like pop a pill or something? Because I'm like, you were a good offensive coordinator at Tennessee,
And
and
then
you
he just
got a
shit the
head
bed.
coaching job for a reason. And then what, dude? His fall off needs to be studied, man. I know people are obviously going to say, "Oh, the fantasy shit."
just like the
No, dude.
Eagles.
Yeah, no, dude. His fall off needs to be studied,
No, it's
man.
crazy. I mean, I maybe he's just a better OC. Like we've seen that with Vic Fangio. He was a terrible head coach and he was more defensive minded guy. He did some decent stuff with Miami and you're saying yesterday it's a god tier hire for the Eagles and I think it's a good hire too. So there's a chance and like especially with Najee and Jalen Warren, I think he has a good running duo and he was good making Derrick Henry be a king.
He's
But
got
anyway,
George Pickens
yeah,
and
and George Pickens,
Deontay
well, who
Johnson.
already averages one big catch a game, his production's about to drop off even more. Um, Again, jokes of him not using his weapons. But anyway, next up we have the Ravens. I would put them in the better than expected because again, I thought the Bengals were going to win the division. I at first was really hyped into their offseason, but then I was like, I don't think they changed that much with OBJ. I think they're going to be like another fifth or sixth seed. And they were the one seed, and their defense was just stifling. So I think because of that, I'll say in the better than expected, I think losing in the way they did to the AFC Championship is the only reason I don't put them in couldn't be more wrong because they had
Yeah.
opportunity after opportunity. Like if it was a different outcome, just like I say with the Lions losing, if both the Lions and Ravens lost and the scenario was different for each of them, I think people wouldn't shit on them as much, especially the Ravens. But uh Lamar MVP probably this year, people didn't expect that. His narratives got shut up a bit, even though he didn't capitalize from his defense, but their defense was just really good, and now their DC is our head coach, so I'd put him better than expected.
I agree. I think um I expected Cincinnati to win the division. It's not their fault that they didn't win the division. When you miss your star quarterback, it just sucks. It's unfortunate. Injuries are never just something
Actually,
that
do the
you
rest of
can
Vanus
blame
FC North
someone, is
here.
something that you can expect. But the
Where's the
thing is,
Steelers?
the Ravens, man, they shout out to them. They had themselves a good year, and obviously it didn't end the way you want it to end for them. But again, Lamar played at an MVP level.
It was a down year for
People are going to look at
passing.
passing stats and
Yeah, but
oh,
he still was a good MVP to his team. Like we've seen how he is with or without Lamar, or this team with it and without Lamar.
like without Lamar, man, like I'm so, like they they're a different team with Tyler Huntley, even though Tyler Huntley can run. Lamar just has more of that it factor in him, and I just think I feel like he proved a lot of people wrong. Obviously, the Lamar haters are going to be super happy, especially with the performance they had. But I feel like regardless, he's going to win his second MVP. People could call him, overrated all they want. People that are Cam Newton haters could compare him to Cam Newton all they want. At the end of the day, Lamar already has more MVPs than some dudes in their career, and I mean the guy's a baller, and that Ravens defense, holy crap, that Ravens defense is just it's crazy, it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I hate some of their fans, but I still respect Lamar. Okay, we're just gonna do, I guess, some of the AFC North here because we had the Bengals and Browns. Browns, I'm gonna be honest, they had five starting quarterbacks this year, and I was hyped about their defense in the regular season. And I was still right about their defense in the regular season. I was saying this team could be a dark horse team at the beginning of the year. People on TikTok were shitting on me, and they made the playoffs as a fifth seed, despite getting their ass kicked in the second half of that game, and their defense melting and Myles Garrett trying to use his PFF grade to stop CJ Stroud. I still think with what this team did and how they did it with Joe Flacco, plus like guys like Elijah Moore, Amari Cooper, having some like with their injuries like Nick Chubb too, the fact that they still got 11 wins is still pretty huge. So I would put them in the better than expected, but you could make an argument for couldn't be more wrong because we didn't think that through five starting quarterbacks and all the adversity that they got to the playoffs. Like Joe Flacco leading them to the playoffs again was something we didn't see. So I think it could be either one of these two.
I personally couldn't have been more wrong about them just because, like, I didn't think they were going to be horrendous or even bad. Just, I didn't think they were
Mid.
going to get 10 plus wins. I mean,
I thought they were. I thought
even
they
with
were.
even freaking Nick Chubb and even if Deshaun Watson was starting at quarterback, like, um, which I mean, he's not even
They went
that
through
much.
Deshaun, PJ,
He's not.
DTR, Joe Flacco, and I forgot the other dude, but there's five dudes in there. They had
Jeff Driscoll. I think it's Jeff Driscoll.
Driscoll. They did also have Josh Dobbs on their team, but they cut him right near the end of preseason, which is crazy. But I actually decided to put him in couldn't be more wrong as well because after their injuries with Nick Chubb, especially out, we didn't expect them to get where they did today and have like just overall like a really good offense and team still in the regular season. And they surprised people. I had them in my top two, but then it also was surprising when they lost the way they did. So you know what? The whole roller coaster of emotions, that's pretty much in a nutshell what the Browns season was. So I agree with you. Let's put them at the top.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yes, I said what you thought. Anyway, the Steelers, I'm putting them as expected. They go 9-8 every year. Uh, Nothing much else to say. I get Mason Rudolph doing his thing was surprising, but I feel like still just as expected. They're the Steelers, man. They're a 9-8 boring team again, and Seattle was like them that year too. So you guys could give me shit, but Seattle was actually expected to be a fifth or sixth seed with 10 to 12 wins, and we got basically eight. So we are underwhelming, but like the Steelers are just 9-8 teams and they get their ass kicked in the wild card round. Same script. And
Yeah.
they own the Ravens while they're at it.
Well, I mean, at least they have something to hold on to. But yeah, no, I agree. I
But they're
agree as
stuck.
expected.
They're always stuck. They're stuck in a loop. They're not. It's on honestly being 9-8 versus being bad and then rebuilding is probably worse.
I mean, coming from a fan that roots for poverty and we're continuously rebuilding. I don't know. I'd rather be a Steelers fan.
You
Anyway,
guys
no, they did as
improved.
expected. What was that?
I just said you guys improved though. We'll get to that when we talk about the Bears. We'll get to
But
that.
yeah, as expected, I feel like they do the same. I mean, I agree. They do the same thing every year. Although I will say this, man. After losing to the Cardinals and the Patriots back to back weeks in games that they were favored pretty big on, I'm like, holy crap! I don't know. I didn't even think they were going to make playoffs, let alone even get to 9-8. But
They always find a way. They always find a way. They always just insane,
but they, I
bro.
mean, they did, um,
I
and
will say Kenny Pickett.
they
Kenny
got to
Pickett is interesting. I thought he wouldn't fall off like he did.
They got to 10-7. Here's one area that they proved me wrong in though, which I'm not gonna put them in prove me wrong or better than I expected, but uh Mason Rudolph. Like
I
people
agree.
can say
Yeah.
what they want, but man, he wasn't like amazing, but he played good.
They
I'll
outplayed
give him
Kenny
his
Pickett
credit.
in some ways. It's
He
crazy.
100%. I feel like when
Which I
I
did
was
not expect. I thought Kenny would be at least serviceable. You know what I mean?
yeah, no, Mason Rudolph, like the more I thought about it, I was like, man, like the Steelers, because they finished 10-7, right? Which is not a bad record when you look at it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. But I feel like if you had Mason Rudolph instead of Kenny Pickett or Mitch, they probably would have won those games versus the Cardinals and the Patriots. Now they wouldn't have won convincingly, in my opinion. They probably would have won by like 3 points or something. But still, I feel like he gave them the best chance to win games, and that really shocked me in my opinion. Shout out to
Yeah.
Mason Rudolph. If you're listening to this, man, you're the man, Mason Rudolph.
All right. Next up, we have the Bengals. I added injuries in here because, simply put, that was kind of their downfall. But I will say this: they were very overachieving in the sense that Jake Browning did some good stuff for them. And that's all I'll say. But again, just they were supposed to be a top two, top three team in the AFC. So it just sucks. Like I will put him in the massive disappointment or injury, but like not your fault, guys. I actually can't believe I'm saying this, but I want Joe Burrow back because he actually can help put some regulation into the NFL AFC economy.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But I mean, you could kind of say that they kind of disappointed in the first half of the season, but I feel like this happens every year.
They always start off
Yeah,
like
rough,
bad
but then
and
they
then they
go
go,
super hot.
yeah, like they did it the last two seasons. So like if they do it next year, as
As
much as
long as
NFL
Burrow's
meme
healthy.
pages are gonna say it, everyone's gonna be like, yeah, they do this every year. By week 5, they're gonna get it together.
Yeah, because the first 5 weeks they'll be like 2-3 or something. Everybody
Yeah,
will
and
be like,
then
"What
they'll
the fuck
bounce
is wrong
back.
with
This
the
is
Bengals?"
why they
Or
won't get a 1 seed because unless they fix those slow starts, that's the difference. But they'll still be like a top. I think they'll definitely be a favorite to like win the division every year if their team's fully healthy. But also this is off topic, but the Tyler Boyd, T Higgins, losing one of them could be huge because
yeah,
especially they want a long term pay Jamar Chase too. They long term pay Joe Burrow, so their future is interesting, but they're a great team when healthy. So yeah.
yeah,
But anyway, Carolina Panthers, worst team in the league. I
or
thought they would start off slow and then become okay and gel together. I thought walking into Carolina was a bad situation, especially for Bryce Young. I was kind of right about how he did. I thought there weren't any insanely special attributes coming out of Bama for him compared to Stroud. But I think he'll do better with Dave Canellas. But I just thought they would at least have a bit of a better bounce back than what they finished with, and not having the first overall pick is a bit of an oof for that. But yeah, I'm gonna just put them in worse than expected because of that. But I'll change this if you have a big opinion.
I agree because dude, going into the season, I thought that like the NFC South was the worst, which it was the worst
It
division.
was the worst division.
Well, I thought it would be like horrendous. Like a team would make a playoffs with like a 7-10 record or something. Like
I
I
thought it'd
thought
be
it was,
like 8-9 or 9-8.
but I'm gonna be honest, I did not
I thought the
expect.
Saints would be 9-8, but we'll get into the Saints later.
I felt like it would okay. I felt like it would be a weirdly weak division, but I felt like every single team would fight for that first place spot. Like every single team. And so the fact that the Panthers not only, were they couldn't fight for a wild card spot, but they couldn't even fight for the worst division of football. Like fight. That was really really disappointing. And I know when obviously we fleeced them, and thank you for Carolina. I really appreciate it. Sorry, Panthers fans. But um, I, I still felt like their offseason wasn't that bad. Like, when they signed Adam Thielen, like that was not a bad signing. I mean, he had a pretty solid year. And then
It's
they
bad
signed
when
Miles
he's your
Sanders.
whiteout, but he wasn't bad.
I mean, but look, wait, Adam Thielen. Let me
He
look
had
at
a
his.
great year. I'm just saying, like on paper, having him as your whiteout is not a good look, but he overachieved. He did well in the system,
Well, I
considering
mean,
what
yeah,
he could.
yeah, but also when they also signed Miles Sanders, who'd come off like a 1,400
Miles
rush,
Sanders disappointed though. He was a flat out disappointment.
and now I'm just starting to wonder if it was just his offensive line. Which, by the way,
It was the
Adam,
offensive line. Like Ikemu Kwanu is not getting favored by the schemes they put up.
I will say this though, despite all this stuff that they've gone through with their defense, I mean they're just their team. We'll give their defense credit, man. They had a pretty solid defense. Especially looking at the fact that their team was not very good. I'll give them credit for that. But yeah, they did worse than I expected.
And I put the Jets in injury because, like, I think it's pretty obvious here. Aaron Rodgers had so much hype around him, and it's unfortunate he got hurt, like, not like 3 plays in. But, like, A Rod, everyone, I think this team can still be good. They're going to run it back one more year. with him. But like the amount of guys they brought in for Green Bay for him, the amount of hype and drama the last like 2 or 3 years all accumulated into this. And they unfortunately Rodgers got injured and the whole machine fell apart. But like still, man, like there's not much else to say here. It's just there was so much hype in Rodgers, and that him getting injured pretty much immediately, everyone's like, okay, this is going to be over. Yikes.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like I mean, it's not really fair to really rank them anywhere because
Yeah,
again,
exactly. That's why I put him in the massive disappointment / injuries.
because because I mean, when with Rodgers with a real team surrounded around him, I mean with a lot. I don't want to say a real team because the Packers are a real team, but like with weapons surrounded around him, with considering the age that he's at already, he can still ball, man. He can still, play up to that, really high level, that MVP level, which I know sounds outrageous right now, but the guy also won
I
4
mean,
MVPs for a reason.
ranking him in the top 10 is not an outrageous statement at all by any
And not
stretch of the
just that,
imagination.
but Garrett Wilson would have had a way, dude.
And he
Dude,
still had a good season. He's like the
he's still,
Bugatti in like that dumpster, like or that crappy house meme. Like he still has a good season, like a solid season for what he went through.
like Rodgers will go heavy to that number one receiver or heavy to that receiver option that he really likes the most.
And he loves
And
Garrett Wilson and Sauce
I mean,
Gardner,
for a while, he always had that one guy. So look,
Devontae
you know,
Adams.
it was well, I'm like Jordy Nelson first,
Oh yeah,
then
that's true.
Devontae Adams, then Christian Watson for that 1 year after Devontae Adams left. Christian Watson was a friggin' touchdown machine. He kind of disappointed this year, and then now Garrett Wilson, but you don't have it. It's just not fair, right? So just injuries slash you know heavy disappointments, but they weren't really a heavy disappointment. And they finished 7-10, which again, that's not even horrendous. Like that's not even
No,
that
yeah,
bad.
totally. They got a couple surprise wins in there, / like again, we're a boring team, but again, it's just because of Rogers' injury. Okay, next up is the Buffalo Bills. Now, this is a tough one for me because I thought they would get 11 to 12 wins, but the way they did it this year was not what I expected. Um, I thought they would struggle more in their gauntlet, which was the Eagles, Chiefs, and Cowboys, and they would split and their own division opponents too. I thought they could split with the Dolphins and the Jets, and they technically did with the Jets, but this was assuming Rodgers would be healthy. Um, I don't know, man. Like some of the teams they lost to, like the Broncos and Patriots, that first Patriots matchup, it just led to those losses, which you would not expect. But then they rebounded hard and then got bounced in the divisional, which if before the season I would have been like, yeah, that's very possible as well. So it's really tough. I'll have to put them as expected, but at the same time, the games they lost and won in this whole season, it did not go as how I expected, but it's not like better or worse, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
if I could add a new tier that says what the fuck, it would be this. It would be for this
You
team.
actually can. You can. I believe you can.
Nah, this one's a different. Oh, add row below. Oh, hold on. Sorry. We got this. This is a public one, by the way. We're gonna put Buffalo down there.
Yeah, I agree, man. Like it was like in theory it was as I expected to, but again, it's just the roller coaster. The roller coaster.
I
You
love
never
that
really
so
expect a
much.
roller. So every time you go into a season for all 32 NFL teams, you give your win predictions and stuff, but you never really expect a roller coaster from a team. If you get what I'm saying, like no one ever predicts that. So
Mhm.
just because of that, I would also put them in the same WTF tier, just because of the ups and downs that they had, in the year. But yeah.
Yeah, fair. Okay. We'll save the Chicago Bears for a little bit. Um, in a second because this thing's about to run out. Why don't we do the Eagles? I'd put them in massive disappointment because I thought they would be a Super Bowl contender again. And they went like 1-5 after starting 10-1. And some of their wins in general were very iffy for drop receivers, penalties helping them. Like there was a lot of fluctuation. Like their last legit win was against the Bills, and there were even some BS ref calls that helped them at home. So,
Yep.
like, you could argue they should have lost to Buffalo. I would put them in massive disappointment. They just got crapped on in the wild card like 33-9.
Yeah,
And
no,
everyone was saying Chiefs Eagles Super Bowl again, and they didn't. They just shit the bed after the Niners and the Bills.
I agree. I mean, even when they were winning, I was like really disappointed because I was like, "What the hell are they doing? Like, why?" Because it was nowhere near the same team. Even when they were winning, it's like you like okay, no disrespect to Jalen Hurts, but it's like he did not play the way I expected him to, right? Not necessarily saying he was bad, but he was not playing at an MVP level, like
Oh no, 100%. I was so sick and tired of those narratives that he was better than Josh Allen, he was better than Lamar Jackson, he was better than Brock Purdy. Like he has some great skills, but half of his prowess came from a bunch of dudes shoving his butt into an end zone. And he did terrible in the precision passing today or yesterday in the Pro Bowl, which is very funny. And so did Tua.
Yep. Dude, this. I agree 100%.
All right. Next up, let's do the Strouds, the Sea Texans. I'm
Couldn't
putting
be
them and couldn't
more
be more
wrong.
wrong. Second worst team to a divisional round team. There is not much else to say. I was higher on CJ Stroud than Young, but him as a rookie, he was a generational talent, and rookie head coach did really good. And Derek Stingley had, I think, a pretty good what was it, sophomore year, I think. Um and or maybe junior year, I forgot. He had a pretty good year this year. And also Will Anderson is a defensive rookie of the year candidate. So they did pretty good. They made some bold moves trading for that third overall pick after CJ Stroud to get Will Anderson. And they just overall really overachieved. They have a bright future, man. That's all I gotta say.
100%. I mean, you know, um, so one of the football coaches at my school, I remember the, I was like, "Did you watch the draft?" And he's like, "Yeah." It was the day after the draft. He's like, "Yeah, man, I didn't get much sleep because I was so locked in on the draft." And he's like a Texans slash Falcons fan, like kind of like how you're a Seahawks slash Bills fan. And he was like,
Yeah.
"Man, I really like what D'Amico Ryans is doing, you know, drafting CJ Stroud and Will Anderson. I feel like this team could really make a big turnaround." I'm like, okay, I'm gonna keep your words then. And then when I looked at
And he
it,
was right. My Packers fan friend also said they're a fringe playoff team, and look how it turned out.
so yeah, I couldn't have been more wrong, man. And I'm happy for them. They deserve it, especially after the hell they went through with. You remember, obviously,
Deshaun
the
Watson and the
blowing
Chiefs blown
blowing
lead,
the Chiefs blown
Chiefs
lead, and then
divisional.
the
Yeah.
trading DeAndre
That
Hopkins away
started
from.
Mahomes' legacy right there.
But we need to talk about trading away DeAndre Hopkins to the Cardinals. That was one that set them back. Bill O'Brien was the idiot of all idiots. Bill O'Brien was a
Terrible
terror,
GM, decent OC,
and I felt bad for the Texans
and the
because
Hopkins trade.
when that the yeah. Oh, no, I was just like like I felt bad for them after that because that trade, it looked like it was going to set them in poverty for a long, long time. And it's just like, oh, but it's just a wide receiver. What could that possibly do? Dude,
Oh, it's
one
like your
was one of
star
the best
wide
in the
receiver,
league,
bro.
but not just that, that you got fleeced. And the Texans, I mean,
They might have that
they
hope in Nico and
they
Tank
went
Dell,
4-12
though.
the next year. But to Deshaun Watson's credit, he did throw 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and he had like 4,800 passing yards. That's pretty insane on a 4-12 Texans team with no D Hop. He did pretty well, and but it looked like they were gonna get Deshaun Watson out of there, and they looked screwed because it looked like despite the fact that Deshaun Watson was balling out, that they did not have enough resources to make that roster really a playoff competitive level roster. So they had to
Yeah, it was just him and JJ.
trade away Deshaun, get the haul that they should have gotten at the time because Deshaun was really, really good at the time. And later it would pay off. So, it doesn't really matter
Yeah.
anymore.
I
It
mean, they
doesn't
got Tank Dell and Nico Collins joined D Hop and Johnson for like franchise records in receiving. So like they're a young franchise, but like Nico Collins had a hell of a breakout year this year, man. Like it's crazy.
yeah.
Like his third year or something, he's still a really young guy. And I think Tank Dell is also special. So it'll be great. The main disappointment was Damian Pierce, but Singletary has been was a top three rusher in since week nine. He's not a power back, but they used him in good ways. So as a Bills fan, it's good to see that. But anyway, uh, also this is I'm a little off track, but I'm a little pissed off because the Warriors today lost an overtime game while Curry dropped 60 points. His
Oh,
second 60 pointer. It's fucking unbelievable what they are wasting him, bro. The Warriors don't deserve him. Like, it's crazy. A random guy, I'm just going to show the stats. So Curry had 6 rebounds, 4 assists, 41 minutes, 60 points. Klay Thompson had 10 points. Jonathan Kuminga, he had an 8 game, like 9 game, 20 point streak. So that unfortunately came in, but he's good. Brandon Podiasmiski, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I've known him for a bit. He's been really solid as like an off the bench slash starting lineup guy, 15 points. Lester Quinones, he outplays you, Clay. I'm sorry, you have a burst every once in a while, but Clay, you're fucking washed, dude. It actually pisses me off. This team, I know this is a little off topic, but the Warriors are so frustrating, man, because Curry is still playing like a top guy. And in some ways, he's better when they were in the finals against the Cavs those 4 years in a row. It's just sad to see. And this was after the Lakers lost when he dropped they lost against the Lakers when he dropped a 46 point masterclass. So
damn.
crazy, man.